Have you ever wondered what the billions and billions of dollars allocated to the national defense of the United States actually goes to? You might be thinking you already know the answer. Yes, it goes to bombs, missiles, tanks, planes, and soldiers. But did you know the Army is allocated over $27 million for the fiscal year 2024 for cranes? Or that the Navy is allocated over $5 billion in construction projects throughout the world? If you were caught off guard by these stats, then maybe you should stick around and find out what other crazy things the National Defense Authorization Act plans to spend on in fiscal year 2024. The National Defense Authorization Act provides $826.45 billion in spending for the U.S. military in fiscal year 2024, which is actually $28.71 billion more than it was authorized last year. Let's take a look at some of the crazier things the budget approves for all the branches of the military. While the total budget for the Army is $146 billion, $21,216,000 is approved for air traffic control. $156,821,000 is approved for the new long-range hypersonic weapon that will travel at speeds of 3,800 miles an hour with a reported range of 1,700 miles. Flatbed semi-trailers will be allocated $22,751,000, while the Army will also be given $30,725,000 for their all-terrain cranes. A family of forklifts, whatever that is, will be allocated $12,982,000, $50,075,000 for dump trucks. $292,850,000 will allow the Army to purchase the next generation of squad weapons. 60mm mortars, 81mm mortars, and 120mm mortars combined will be allocated a staggering $182,506,000. $3,287,440,000 for aircraft in the Army. $4,962,017,000 for all their missiles. $4,386,021,000 for weapons and tracked combat vehicles. And a total of $2,951,388,000 will be spent on ammunition. Now let's take a look at the Navy. The total budget for the Navy in fiscal year 24 will be $255.8 billion. Let's take a look on how the Navy plans to spend all that money. $72,908,000 will be spent on Tomahawk missiles. $61,274,000 will be spent on mortars alone. $7,129,965,000 on the Virginia-class submarine, which is a nuclear submarine with unlimited range that cost almost $3 billion to only build one. $23,272,000 will be allocated for pollution control equipment in the U.S. Navy, while $72,871,000 will be spent on satellite communication systems. The Navy will spend $27,790,000 on classified programs. Think about that for a second. The Navy will spend almost $28 million on stuff we are not allowed to know about. I can't even begin to imagine how I would spend that kind of money. In total, the United States Navy will be allowed to spend $17,409,650,000 on aircraft. They will also spend $7,024,277,000 on weapons, $32,288,616,000 on shipbuilding and ship conversion, and the bill provides an additional $14,535,257 for the Navy to obtain other equipment or materials, such as a $34,782,000 on firefighting equipment, $86,963,000 on a 40-foot patrol boats, and $320,177,000 on sono buoys. The total budget for the United States Marine Corps is $3,975,312,000. How will the Marine Corps spend that money? They will spend $2,799,000 on classified programs, $2,034,000 on trailers. What kind of trailers? I don't know. It just says trailers. $105,192,000 will be spent on Tomahawk missiles. A single Tomahawk missile costs around $2 million, which means they can only buy around 52 missiles. The amphibious combat vehicle will get a staggering $105,192,000. The Marines will spend $35,657,000 just on spare parts and repair parts. The best allocation of funds is the $27,691,000 given to the Marine Corps for items less than $5 million. Oh, and unmanned aircraft systems used for intel will be allocated $52,273,000. Let's look at the Air Force. The total budget for the Air Force in fiscal year 24 is $215.1 billion. Here's how Congress plans to allocate some of those funds. The Air Force and its partners are developing a new bomber, the B-21 Raider, and Congress approves $1,617,093,000 for the new bomber. The Air Force is going to spend a massive amount of money on classified programs. Their aircraft classified program gets $17,165,000, while its missile classified program gets $851,780,000. $618,000. Almost $1 billion being spent that we can't even know about. The flares that come out of the back of planes and helicopters to deflect missiles are allocated $79,786,000. The machines to remove and clean runways of snow are going to cost you, the taxpayer, $22,030,000, while radio equipment alone costs $30,407,000. In fiscal year 24, the Air Force is allocated $46,565,356,000,000 just to research, develop, test, and evaluate. It is allocated $20,350,204,000 just for aircraft, $5,530,446,000 just for missiles, and $703,158,000 for ammunition. Now let's take a look at 4 things the entire U.S. military spends its money on. $52,291,376,000 will be spent on operations and maintenance. $1,091,844,000,000 to destroy chemical agents and ammunition, and $928,926,000 on drug interdiction and counter-drug activities. You think your hospital bills are expensive? The U.S. military is allocated $38,228,460,000 by Congress just for its health program. The U.S. military is massive, so obviously it undertakes a lot of construction projects. Take the Army, for example. It is allocated $1,803,165,000 just to build things like a rail yard at Fort Bliss for $74 million. Or the Navy, it's allocated $5,343,514,000 for construction projects like a child development center in Guam for $105,220,000. Yes, $105,220,000. What about the Rapid Airfield Defense Restoration Storage Facility for $47 million at a Royal Air Force base in the United Kingdom? The Air Force is given $3,045,314,000 in construction projects. The Army National Guard is also allocated its own $590,942,000 for construction. This is just the tip of the iceberg for construction projects. It is obviously extremely hard to comprehend how much the government spends on the military. Its equipment, its training, and its toys add up to billions and billions of dollars a year. Leave a comment letting me know what you were most shocked about by the spending. If you enjoyed learning more about the National Defense Authorization Act, make sure you like this video and subscribe. But most importantly, share this video with a friend so they can learn more about what they're